last one standing.
I keep reaching for greatness because I'm built from it.
Who bows to who?
Nobody gon' stop for me. Here we go.
Kong bows to no one.
Here we go.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I am, of course, your host, Josh Williams. Thank you so much for joining me here today, and I am joined by
Ryan Murphy.
And I'm James Sheridan.
And thank you so much for joining us here today because we are here to give you our real-time review of Godzilla versus Kong. Oh, I am, as the phrase goes, I am so excited, and I just can't hide it.
You're
Ryan,
excited? Okay.
I'll go ahead and get started. Who is all in this movie? And
who this movie? First of all, this movie is directed by Adam Wingard, and it stars Millie Bobby Brown, Alexander Skarsgard, Rebecca Hall, Brian Tyree Henry, Eiza Gonzalez, Julian Dennison, Kyle Chandler, and Demian Bichir.
Wow,
So,
a lot of people. Now, folks, before we get started, please be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can receive more of our various content in the future. Also, I need to let you guys know that this movie and this review, I should say, is sponsored by B&B Missouri 6 Theaters. So we will have a brief promotional video promoting them, and we will be right back into the review. We'll be right back. B&B Missouri 6 is the premier theater to see a movie if you're in the Missouri area. The refreshments are delicious. The seats give you full reclining comfort, and the movie viewing experience is euphoric. But the main reason I wanted B&B to be my sponsor is their staff and the overall movie-going experience they provide. They're professional, friendly, inviting, and they truly have you leaving the theater feeling, as their motto goes, the magic of the movies. Thank you guys for bearing with us there. I got to give a shout out to our sponsors. They take care of us so well. But now let's have a party. At least for me, I don't know how these guys think, but let's have a party and talk about Kong versus Godzilla. Now this is spoiler free, so if you haven't seen
spoiler free for now. We'll do a spoiler video later.
Yeah.
I don't know how to talk about this movie without spoilers. I don't know how to give my thoughts without spoilers, so I'll give it a very abbreviated version.
Yeah. So Ryan, why don't you go ahead and kick us off?
Man, this movie was dog shit.
Oh,
I mean, my goodness. I'm going to give this movie a solid 2 out of 10. 2 out of 10, mainly because, I've grown up in tornado country my whole life, but man, I never saw sucking until I saw this movie. So it's interesting. Obviously, the thing that's getting butts in the seats here is Godzilla fighting Kong, and that happens, and that's cool. You see most of that in the trailers, but you see. I mean, as far as what you're going to see in this film, that's not in the trailers. That's worth you going to. If you just want to see Godzilla and Kong throw down, that's 30 minutes. You got an hour and a half left of screen time. That's just absolute garbage. One of the worst scripts I've ever seen put on screen. I mean, easily.
He always says this.
The last time I saw a script this bad, besides the Star Wars sequels, that's a whole nother matter. You guys, know all about that. But barring the Star Wars sequel trilogy, I have not seen a script this clumsy and stupid since 2013 with G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Always brings that one up.
Nothing, because it's the example of horribleness. Nothing in this film made sense. Nothing in this film mattered what was going on. Nothing in this film made sense. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm not really sure how to get into that without getting into spoilers. But basically, I was having this talk with my dad, who I watched the movie with later, and we're talking like, yeah, I mean, these movies are made to see the monsters fight. So why don't they just have the monsters fight and don't even bother with plot? And he's like, yeah, but you have to build up. It has to be a feature presentation, not a 30-minute short film. So you just kind of have to throw that stuff in there. But you should add maybe a little work to it. And this movie had less work than most put into it in terms of that. This movie, really, they just did not give a crap. And it's just that if you're going to see Kong versus Godzilla, fine, but be ready for an hour and a half of crap before that happens. So that's my thought.
James, what are your thoughts?
I vehemently disagree. I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10.
Wow.
Maybe
we're
a
talking
7.5.
We're giving this movie the same score as like really good movies.
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying that if you're going looking for Godfather or, Shakespeare in the Park, you're not going to get that. This is a monster fight movie, and it knows that it's a monster fight movie, and it sets itself up as a monster fight movie. That's all it's doing. And I disagree with Ryan that, the plot doesn't make sense. I think the plot makes a great deal of sense, especially given everything that the previous films established. I think that it expands on its lore very well, and actually raises some very interesting questions about the universe that they've created, the characters that they put into it. The human characters are a little boring, but everything that they do facilitates putting the monsters in place to do what they need to do. And I think that while each sort of section with the humans is not the most fun, it does it's necessary to set up everything else. And once you get to those fights, they are so fun and they are so well done. They were lit very well. It's a giant beast slobberknock like 3 or 4 times over, and that ending, I'm in love with that ending. I'm in love with the questions that they set up and establish for what comes next, if there is anything next. And I really thought this was a lot of fun. Again, I'm kind of measuring this on a scale of like tempered expectations of like what this is intended to be, and it knows that it's a monster fight movie. It's not trying to be Godfather. It's not trying to be.
Yeah, but like you would give it's not trying to be a Scorsese film, but you would give a Scorsese film an 8 out of 10, and you're giving it the same score as you would give it.
No, because I would measure a Scorsese film by the merits of what a Scorsese film is trying to be. I'm measuring this by the merits of what it's trying to be.
Right.
That's why I think it's an 8 out
should
of 10.
be.
That's why I think it's a success at what it's trying to do. I think that there is room for improvement. I think that there are little things that it could have done better, which are hard to discuss at this moment because, like, again, we're spoiler free. But I do think that, if you're looking for a good, fun adventure time, this is it. Like, this is one of the best experiences I've had in months seeing a movie, and it was just lots of fun.
And I think that's what a lot of people need during this pandemic. It's just something fun and something just to, take your mind out of what's going on in the world and just sit down, shove your face with some popcorn, and just enjoy yourself. Now,
I agree, but that doesn't mean you have to be insulted by it.
Okay, you are, Ryan. Not a lot of people are. Because right now it sits at 62% on Metacritic and 80% on Rotten Tomatoes and 95%.
The 94 audience score.
94 audience score.
The audio. Okay, well, let's go ahead and hear Josh's.
By the time
score.
we do our spoiler review, which we'll probably do on Sunday or Monday, we will get probably the cinema score, which that is a lot better gauged on, Paul, what the audience thinks.
Yeah, the same people who give like 80%, 85% to every Michael Bay Transformers movie and gave 0% to Mother, Darren Aronofsky.
Well, Metacritic gave it 62%, which that's very good for Metacritic. That's actually very good. But anyway, now we also got to remember, guys, that for also the audience to know that you were talking about what it sets up. We actually don't know for sure because you can find. I mean, I've already seen articles about it posting it that there's not an end credit scene at the end. So we're not getting, usually with these films, we're usually getting some kind of taste of what's to come next. We don't know now. So I'm curious to see how that's going to transpire. I'm on the same wavelength as James. Ryan, is kind of how when we review like Disney Channel original films, we judge it based on its, what it's trying to do. Now this movie is just, it knows it's not going to do very well with the characters and get too much depth because it doesn't have time. It doesn't have time. It gives you, for me, it gives you just enough. Now, I will say there's some problems with it. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10 as well.
Wow.
I almost thought about 8.5, but I did think about some other issues with it going on. Now, I will say I'll talk about some other stuff I really loved later on, but with some of the stuff to get out the way I didn't like, I will say while I loved seeing Millie Bobby Brown in the film and like the group she was in, they didn't really serve a whole ton of purpose. The only purpose they served was giving you their vantage point for when like Godzilla comes around or Kong comes around. And so they don't
I will say with Millie Bobby Brown's group, the purpose that they're serving is to establish a specific plot point, which we can't discuss for obvious reasons. And it's setting up the mystery of what that thing is.
I guess that's true. But then again, the parts I really loved, the character parts actually was between the little girl and Kong. Yeah. That was very well written, I think. And I just
really, a lot of humanity.
Yeah, it really did. And I loved those moments quite a bit. Now, Alexander Skarsgard, he did okay. I think he was a little goofy for me. A little goofy. That was the other thing I wasn't too much cared for. He's playing like a coward, which a guy that tall, broad shoulder, Tarzan, he doesn't play timid very well. I didn't buy it once whatsoever. But other than that, like you said, like to me, what really shocked me the most, of course, you got the fight scenes. They're going to be great. We all know they're going to be great. But to me, the CGI in this went like from where it was here, like it increased quite a bit because you got a lot more fight scenes during the daytime, which I think a lot of people were like that was one of the big critiques of the prior films, that a lot of them took place at night, except for maybe Kong. But these were like except for one, they're shot in the daytime, and those looked great. I mean, wouldn't you agree with that, Ryan?
There's only two fight scenes in the movie. One is during the day at sea
against Kong and Godzilla, but there's still more after that. There's still like more monster. There's still more monster moments, but between Kong and Godzilla, yeah, there's really only two I can think of.
There's 3 or 4 different fight set pieces. It's not just 2 fights. It's one fight is broken up into 3 different sort of acts, telling 3 different parts of a story. There's a middle section with Kong encountering things. Won't go into. I mean, if you see the film, you know what part I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Which was a part that I actually was really excited about because, again, it's expanding the mythology from the previous, especially Kong film, and developing this world and all these like crazy ideas that they have. Right. And then like the big fight scene on the boats, which was just all kinds of fun.
Because so awesome.
You never get to see a fight scene between 2 monsters at sea like that. Like.
Now, a couple things. Another thing.
All I was trying to say is, I don't know how you're counting it, but I'm only counting 2 action scenes, and the first one is at day, the big one on the ship that's in all the trailers, and the climax is at night, and it goes into the day. So, but even when it's at night, it's actually it's better lit than the other ones because there's all these glowing buildings around them. I think they're in Hong Kong. Yeah. So. Yep.
But like these other monster set pieces where it's not necessarily Kong versus Godzilla, but there's other monster set pieces with like Godzilla by himself, and then there's also some with Kong by himself. So you still get quite a bit of monster action, regardless if they're fighting each other. And there's also more after that. But other things I didn't necessarily like, and I'll get into some other things I liked. I'll get your guys' thoughts on it too. Was I can't actually talk about it, but there's a spot with Kong where he goes somewhere. There's some questionable there's parts in that scenery that I'm like, how is that even possible? Like, I can't get into specifics. We'll talk about it in the spoiler review, but there's one, like, there's a moment with the setting and the scenery that I'm wondering, how is that plausible? That's all I can really say.
If it's what I think you're thinking of, it's actually one of the parts that I really like because, again, it
didn't make sense to me.
The part that I'm thinking of,
we'll talk about
it's hard to explain. While being nice.
But no, there's a lot that doesn't make sense. Why Godzilla's doing what he's doing, like that's the kind of
that makes perfect sense.
That makes perfect sense.
That makes absolutely no sense.
It does.
Oh my gosh,
it makes perfect sense.
No,
we'll talk about it in the spoiler review. But if you know what happened in Kong for King of the Monsters, and you realize what they're doing here, and there's a reason. There's a perfect reason, and it made perfect sense to me.
Okay.
But anyway, but back to what I also, the things I really, what I did, one of the last things I did like was I love that you brought sense of humanity to Kong and intelligence, but also I love that they had to work around it because the I can't remember the company, the Toho, who originally was Godzilla. One of the rules is that they always wanted that they want Godzilla to be godlike, like no show emotion, but they worked around that in this film, and they actually gave him some emotion without really outright doing it, because it's more like what you're perceiving is an emotion or not. So I love that. So to me, when I perceive certain things, it's like that's an emotion he's conveying. Like when he's smiling, or you can tell he's pissed, or he's questioning things, or I loved the Adam Wingard was able to tell some story with these monsters between one another in certain moments. And I thought that was really well done. But Ryan,
they also used the little girl very well to evoke some of that information that we wouldn't otherwise know. That she is able to communicate with the audience certain things that are going on, both with Kong and Godzilla. And I thought that was a very effective way of using the character and her condition, for lack of a better term. And just...
I get what you're saying.
There's so much meat there that, like, I love just that relationship and everything they did with that sort of. I'm trying to find the right term for it, but I just love it. I think that's great.
Now, one thing I did like, and I actually want to throw it back at you guys to see what you guys think, because I'm asking you both this question. Now, I think you guys have both seen the original King Kong vs. Godzilla, right? Both of you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen the actual movie. I saw 10 minutes of it on YouTube, and I clicked off after 2 minutes because it was just so. When Kong goes sliding down that hill, I'm like,
So
I haven't seen it in probably 15 years, but I when I was a kid, that was one of my favorites.
Either way, so one of the things I did like, now I'm not spoiling anything, but I am giving a hint to something. Maybe that'll entice some people to go see the film more. Now, what I did like is that between King Kong and Godzilla, there is technically a definitive winner on who is better than who. Now, did you guys like that or not? Because in the original, they don't really outright say or find. You don't really outright find out who the winner is between the two. In the original,
in the original, it was just different. Like they go into the water, and then one of them comes out of the water, and he's obviously the victor. The thing is that it was different in each cut of the film. So if the American cut of the film had King Kong coming out of the water and walking away, and the Japanese cut had Godzilla. So this one in my mind they definitely had a definitive winner. But what did you think, Ryan? Did you like that they did that, or would you wish? Well, yeah, I mean, I think that I think like Adam Wingard made the point, like, yeah, it's called Godzilla versus Kong. Let's have someone actually win it. Let's not do a cop out. Like basically, Batman won in Batman versus Superman. I have never seen Freddy versus Jason, so I think Jason won. I think from what I've read,
Jason definitively won.
So yeah,
well, I don't know. Like the head, the Freddy's head, like Freddy's eye, like winked a little bit.
Well, just because he's still alive doesn't mean that he's not. He didn't lose.
For that fight, there's a pretty definitive winner. It may not be he may not have won the war, but he won that battle.
True. But
yes, and just in the same way, there's a pretty definitive winner in this film. I think that's a good idea, and I don't have an argument. It's one of only. What'd you say, James?
And it was us, the audience.
And it was us, yeah. There's a definitive winner, and I mean, it's only one of only two options. So I don't have a huge problem with what.
But that's always the big debate, like, because a lot of people have been talking about online, like, are they going to show one? Are they not? And who will it be? I mean, James, did you like the fact that they actually chose a definitive winner, or
See, I feel like there's some debate as to like who won per se, because I feel like they both kind of got their own. They did.
Yeah, they did. In a way, you're right.
And like, without talking about a certain plot point, which I mean, if you know the movie, you know what I'm talking about. Like, there's very clearly
there's
another
definitive
event.
Okay, so there's
a plot twist that happens that's like the worst kept secret on the internet. Like basically everyone knows about it at this point.
Well, I mean,
like, we all knew it was
advertised it, so
yeah, we still want to keep it vague. But you're right, there is a definitive winner, but then the person who's the loser does get some not justice, but they do get their own win essentially.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah.
So I mean, all around, guys. I mean, for my last minute all around thoughts, unless you guys have anything else afterwards, I still had one hell of a fun time. I got to see it early. I ate some breakfast while I was watching it in the theater, and that's the thing for me. Even if you guys have it on HBO Max, anybody watching out there, please, if you're able to, in your city, in your town, go see it in the theaters. It's well worth it. This is definitely the type of movie where I feel like you need to see it. Something like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom or Sound of Metal or some of these more indie films, you can watch that at home and be fine. But something like this needs to be experienced in the theater. But that for me, I had a great time. I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with the franchise. James, what are your last minute thoughts?
I mean, I'm looking forward to our spoiler conversation because I really want to get into the meat of some of this stuff.
Right, me too.
That
one's going to be a lot longer. That one's going to be a lot longer.
But again, I love this movie. I thought I'm very curious what movie Ryan saw because I had a very different experience from him.
Me too.
I think a lot of the plot points make perfect sense. There may not be like the most interesting or complex commentary on the human condition kind of plot points, but
true.
Everything sets up something else, and the story keeps moving forward. And I felt like there was at no point at this where it felt like the movie dragged. It was just moving, and then by the end of it, we're in Hong Kong. There's a giant slobber knock between two giant beasts, and it's like this is what I came for, and I got what I came for, and then there's fun twists and adventures along the way, and some interesting human characters. I think Millie Bobby Brown was wasted in this, like she was in the last film, but I have a soft spot for that kid and her performances, so
I feel like she was needed
I'm
in
a little
King.
biased.
I feel like she was needed in King of the Monsters. It's not necessarily like it was cool to see her, but not necessarily.
I'm not saying she wasn't needed. I'm just saying that like I don't feel like they're using her to her full advantage, given
True.
what she can do as a performer. And they're clearly giving scene time to other characters, and it's like you've got this incredibly gifted actress who is like really hot right now, and you're just kind of like having her hide in the background in scenes, and it's like, why is she not the emotional heart of this?
True.
The way especially the way like they established the other little girl, as sort of the emotional connection with Kong. Why is Millie not more connected to Godzilla?
Right.
But or something else? I don't know. But like if they could have put any actress in that role, and I feel like it would have been the same thing. And it's like, anyway, that's another tangent. But like, I love this movie. It was a lot of fun. I wasn't expecting great things, and I got everything I expected, and I'm very pleased with it. There's areas to improve, but I got lore, I got giant monsters, and I had a fun time. I watched it twice, and it's great.
Ryan?
All right. So for my final thoughts, I just say I don't want to come off as too strong because
Hey, it's you, man. It's your thoughts.
It's your opinion, man.
I think this movie is just horseshit. Go see it again, get it on video or get it on HBO Max. If you want to see the fight, fast forward to we'll get some timestamps in this, and we'll just fast forward to the fights and you can watch those. Everything else, I'm amazed James actually said, I think there's some interesting human characters in this, because even for these movies, and this is the fourth movie in the series, even for these movies, those movies all had kind of one-dimensional characters, but they were something. This is a whole new level of I don't care about these people. Like there's no development whatsoever.
I'm not saying I care about them. I'm saying that they move the plot forward. I'm not saying that they're again.
You said they were interesting.
There was, the little girl to me was very interesting.
Their stories, the plot that they're pushing is interesting.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to me, the little girl was the most out of all the human characters. She was the one I enjoyed, watching the most, and and learning more about, sort of thing. But anyway, Ryan, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, that's basically it. I did not care for the film.
Well, you got 2 out of 3 there, folks. 2 of us loved it, and 1, Ryan, you're sticking to your guns, and I applaud you for it. But more importantly, everybody, what did you think of Kong versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus Kong, however you want to phrase it? Leave your comments section below. Let us know your thoughts, your positives and negatives, and score out of 10. Also, if you like what you watched, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can receive more of our various content in the future. That's all we have for today. Again, I'm Josh Williams.
I'm Ryan Murphy.
And I'm James Sheridan.
And thank you for keeping it real
with ReelTime.
Good night.